So, my last thoughts video was a bit of a mess, but this time, I'm prepared. Hi everyone, Sky Queen here, back for another video, and oh boy, this is gonna be fun, guys. Alright, I know I said that my book video would be coming out next, but the official translations for Union Cross Finale Part 2 came out a lot faster than I thought they would, and I've been lazy, so I guess this one's coming out before my thoughts video for the book. But in the meantime, we've got a lot to dig into. The finale gave us a lot. And if you've been around the Kingdom Hearts community these past few weeks, is it? Everyone's basically just been going crazy, mostly because of a certain scene, which we will get to later on. But first of all, I would like to talk about the whole conversation the Master of Masters has with Darkness as the first scene. He talks a lot about fictional worlds, unreality, that sort of stuff, what we know as Quadratum. And one of the things he said intrigues me. He said that the fictional worlds are a place where your eyes and voice can't reach. And we know the thing about the voice because when Sora appeared to help Kairi in Melody of Memory, he couldn't talk, and Xehanort pointed that out. But then that gets me thinking, if neither your eyes or your voice can't reach from the fictional worlds, then how come Sora was able to see Xehanort? That one doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. At first I thought maybe he was using Kairi's eyes, but then why couldn't he use her mouth to speak? I don't know. Hopefully that will get explained, but right now I'm a little confused on that part. And then I think he said something about how like the fictional worlds aren't real, coming from someone else's imagination, and then they become real, which brings up the question of who imagined Quadratum. Like, it's a video game in Toy Box, so maybe someone from Toy Box imagined it? Another thing he said, I can't remember if this is exactly what he said or if I'm using something from the translations here, but I think he said no one can control light or darkness there, or maybe they exist in balance or whatever he said, but that to me seems like it's going to be a perfect place for a stalemate. And if he's still fighting, like we're still fighting the darkness here, like he had this whole big plan to get rid of the darkness finally, and we're still going on that, so maybe this is part of his plan. He's going to create a stalemate and then they'll have to figure out something to do. So that's probably why Master of Masters went there, is my guess. And then at the end of the scene, in the translations he uses this symbol, which I'm not sure what that symbol is or how to even pronounce it, but the global versions use that little dash, that like absence of sound, the blank. And it reminds me of when the Master of Masters told his name to Xehanort. So maybe something similar is going on there, but it also reminds me of the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2 when the nobodies stole the word photo. Maybe that's just a coincidence, but 2 times of it already happening, then something's gotta be going on. Okay, moving on. The 13 darknesses. It has been confirmed that there were 13 original darknesses. Haha, where have we heard this before? So, the Master of Masters planned for 7 of them, the 7 strongest ones, to be trapped inside himself, Lushu, and the Foretellers. And we have no reason to believe that didn't go through, so then we've got 7 accounted for there. One of them escaped from the data world with Maleficent, and he confronted Lushu in the last update, and we don't really know what became of that darkness after that. I'd assume he's either trapped somewhere or Lushu somehow figured out how to defeat it. That would be a stretch though, because we still haven't seen any of the darknesses be actually defeated yet, so I'm not sure where that darkness went. And then 4 darknesses confronted Ephemer's Golden Player in this update, which was crazy, and then we know they are now currently trapped in the portal, I guess. They probably still are trapped, and that makes me wonder what could happen if somebody accidentally set them free. Like, if the portal is somewhere in like Daybreak Town, which is now Scala Kylum, and we know Mickey's gonna be going there soon. What if he accidentally sets the 4 darknesses free? That could be a problem. And then the last darkness possessed Ven earlier on, which Ven did fight it in like the update before this last one. So it's either defeated, like Ven intended to defeat it, or maybe it's trapped inside Ven, which I guess this means the origins of Vanitas theory is possibly proven true. I don't know. I honestly like the idea that the Vanitas was just Ven's darkness, but since Ven is being so ultimate light right now, it's kind of leaning towards Vanitas being that darkness, but I'm going to hope that that's not the case. But until they confirm it, I've got nothing. Let's move on to Player's End. So it's obvious to me that Player made up his plan to trick the darkness like on the spot. He didn't tell Ephemer any of it because they don't know what's going on. Player is a scary good actor, guys. Like, if I was him, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And he hurt his friends, like both physically and emotionally. Like, that's sad. Like, they didn't realize that Player wasn't actually possessed, and Ephemer probably died still thinking that his best friend had been taken from him. That's really sad to think about. Anyway, so basically Player is able to provoke Ephemer into opening the portal and sending him and the other darknesses into it, which Ephemer shot that beam of light straight through Player's chest, and that's probably what killed him. That's really sad. But anyway, Player knew that that was the only way to seal the darknesses away, so he sealed it from the other side, and then we get the origins of Dream Eaters, which is the thing that everyone's been freaking out about ever since the update came out. So, when the Dandelion's hearts went to sleep, their Chirithy became something to protect their sleeping hearts, which is the Dream Eaters that we are all familiar with. And so that says to me that the Dream Eaters are not just bringers of good or bad dreams, they are guardians. And then I'm like, what happens to the heart of a Keyblade wielder if the Dream Eater is defeated? Does it just fade off into darkness and get consumed? That's kind of sad, because we've seen Dream Eaters get defeated in Dream Drop Distance a lot. And then that brings up the topic of nightmares. That makes me wonder, like, if Chirithy are the guardians of the Keyblade wielder's hearts, are nightmares corrupted Chirithy? And are they still keeping the heart safe if that is the case? Or does the heart get tainted along with the Chirithy? That's some big questions that I don't know the answer to. And then, like, my final question with this is, are all Spirit Dream Eaters we see protecting a Dandelion, or are they protecting sleeping hearts in general? I think it's the first one, because not all sleeping hearts have a Chirithy to begin with. But if it is the first one and all spirits are protecting a Dandelion, then that is a lot of Dandelions. And when you consider that not all the Keyblade wielders from all the unions became Dandelions, that makes you realize that the people in Daybreak Town, that was a lot of people. Like, a lot. So that's something to think about. And then Player's fate. He decides not to go to sleep, and Chirithy uses two different words from the translations to the global. In the translations, at least one of the translations I saw, Chirithy uses the term dissolve, but in the global, Chirithy uses the term melted, which to me, I think of a candle, where like a candle is like just all melted down, and then you take the wax and reform it into a new candle, and that's what happens to Player's heart. And this is Player's connection to Xehanort that I've been trying to figure out all this time, and has everybody also freaking out over this. It's really weird to think about, and kind of really interesting too, but it makes me wonder, like, now that Xehanort is defeated, can his heart separate from Player's, and then can they be their own people now? Or are they forever just one big mishmash of a heart? Anyway, the reason we were all looking for a connection between Player and Xehanort is because of the flashbacks that Xehanort has in the beginning of Dark Road, where like we see him at the very beginning where Xehanort talks about how he's been having dreams, but we also see him have a flashback later on where he echoes Brain's line that he was talking about during the confrontation with Ven to tell him that he wasn't a union leader, which that is a little confusing to me because the player wasn't there for that conversation. So I'm wondering how Xehanort even had a flashback of that. But still, with the player thing, this could explain why Ericus seemed to have the same flashback. Maybe he's in the same boat as Xehanort. Who knows? Ericus could be a recycled heart of Evimer or one of the other dandelions, or just another Keyblade wielder altogether. But that is certainly very interesting. I'd like to talk about the little after scenes briefly before I get into anything else. So Lauriam, Elrena, and Ven were sent to the future in their pods by Brain before he ended up getting confronted with Luciu, which I will talk about in a second. But first, Lauriam is in the Dwarf Woodlands, which I wonder if there's any significance there, but I don't know. He sees a butterfly, which I'm wondering if that has significance too, because they wouldn't show it to us if it didn't mean something. But I don't know what to make of it right now. My first thought was Strelitzia, but I don't know how she connects to a butterfly. It is a white butterfly, which does seem significant, but I don't know right now. Then there's the question of if he has lost his memories yet, which we do know will happen to him, but we don't know if it's happened yet. I've heard people make a case that he probably hasn't lost his memories yet because he isn't looking around being like, where am I? Who am I? But I think you can also make that swing the other way, that he could have lost his memories already because when he wakes up, he doesn't immediately look around and try to figure out where Elrena or Ven is. We also don't really know when he is, but he's probably around pre-BBS time, around the time when Ven probably showed up. And the same with Elrena, because this would give them enough time for Elrena and Lauriam to find each other, and we know they get into the Organization 13 around the same time, so they have to be at least in the same time frame. And I think they also have to be close. I think Elrena also ends up in Dwarf Woodlands, though there's also a possibility she could be in Enchanted Dominion, but I don't really know. I don't know the maps for Union Cross that well. Anyway, Elrena ends up in a lightning storm, which I thought was kind of funny, but the first thing I thought was, oh no, is she gonna get struck by lightning? Which would be kind of funny but weird at the same time if the origins of her lightning powers were her getting struck by a lightning storm. That would be interesting. And I have always been under the assumption that Elrena kept her memories of the Union Cross timeline because she seems to still remember things during her death scene in Kingdom Hearts 3. But if she kept her memories, what was different for her versus Lauriam and Ven? Speaking of Ven, we see him in those little Badlands places, which I think are part of the Keyblade Graveyard. But the person who approaches him, I don't think is Xehanort, both because of like the way he's walking and because of just a feeling I had when I first saw the person come on screen. I'm like, I don't think that's Xehanort. I don't know who it could be instead, though. I have honestly no clue who else it could be. And I don't know if Ven has forgotten yet either, but now I want to address the rules of time travel, because we know that the people who use the lifeboat, it's an incomplete thing, and their body is stripped away, and when they reach their destination, they have to have a medium to rebuild their body and someone with memories of them. The medium rule is obvious for why that's needed, because they need a new body now. And I guess that rule was fulfilled somehow for Lauriam, Lorena, and Ven, because they all very clearly have bodies here. But now I think I'm starting to understand why the memories rule is so important. What if the reason you need to have someone with memories of you at your destination is because if you don't have someone with memories of you, you lose your memories? That could be an interesting thought, and it could work. Let's say Ven gets sent to the future, he somehow gets his body rebuilt, but nobody has memories of him, and that's why he loses his memories, because the medium was providing him with a body, and the memories of other people would provide him with memories of himself, I guess. So now that rule is starting to make a little bit of sense. But that also brings up the question of what did they rebuild their bodies with? And I don't know. I have no clue. But it clearly happened somehow because they all have bodies. now I'm gonna jump over to Ephemer, who doesn't appear to have traveled in time at all with the lifeboat. He's the only one still in his pod. Everyone else lost their pods. And since Skuld is not with him, she probably did time travel. We don't see where Skuld ends up at all, so the case for her being Subject X still stands, and that is good because we don't know literally anyone else it could be. She's the one who fits the descriptions best, and yeah, the same things probably applied to her. She got her body rebuilt somehow, but no one had memories of her, so she lost her memories. And then she probably ended up pre-BBS time as well, and that gives her enough time to get found in the Radiant Garden, taken in by Ansem the Wise, and meet Lee and Isa before Ven gets to Radiant Garden. So Ephemer is completely alone here, and we know based on the last cutscene in this update that he goes on to become the founder of Skull-Eyed Kylum, which is a little weird to me because he's completely alone here and there's nobody else around. I'm wondering where he got people to populate Skull-Eyed Kylum. Do you think it's possible that there were people who survived the Keyblade War that weren't the Dandelions? I don't know, but I don't know where else Ephemer would have gotten people. Ephemer showing up in the Keyblade Graveyard still has not been explained. Maybe later on in his life he went back to the Keyblade Graveyard searching for his friends and something killed him, and that's why he shows up there in KH3, but other than that I got no idea. Okay, now I'm gonna talk about the brain stuff, which is all the big stuff that we want to talk about here. Let's start with the Lushu after scene, where Lushu takes off his hood and reveals Brain's face, which leads a lot of people to believe that Lushu used Brain as his first vessel, but I really don't think so, mostly because I don't like that idea, and also because it's way too complicated for me, because there's all these things that would have had to happen in order for this to be right, for this to be what's going on. I was going to do some fancy calculations to try and see if Lushu is the same height in this reveal scene as he is in other scenes, because Lushu is taller than Brain, but I didn't get around to it. Maybe I'll try doing that later in a follow-up thing. But I don't think that Lushu is using Brain's body right now. And I have a whole lot of theories for why, then, do they look alike. My first thought is illusion magic, like what Ava did, because we know at least Ava can do that, but I don't know why he would use illusion magic to make himself look like Brain. Next thought is early replicas. That's been a thought that's been floating around a lot, but I don't really know how it would be possible because Vexen is the one who created replicas, and as far as we know, he's the one who came up with them. But just staying with replicas for a second, maybe Brain is a replica of Lushu, maybe created to keep an eye on the Union leaders, but that doesn't really work because in order for Lushu to want to keep an eye on the Union leaders, he would have had to know that the Union leaders were going to become a thing, and then he would have had to created Brain before Ava got her role and received the note with everyone on it, because we know Brain's on the note. But if he was created before everyone got their roles, then Lushu would have no reason to want to create Brain, and it's this whole big circle and it just doesn't work. My next theory is that maybe they are related, but that is a very slim chance in genetics. Not that genetics really matters in Kingdom Hearts, but it's still a pretty slim chance that they'd end up looking exactly alike. My next theory, which is kind of intriguing, is they both have artificial hearts, and that the Master of Masters created both of them for specific jobs. He created Lushu to be one of the Seven Lights and to do his role, and he created Brain to be a Union leader and to do the things like whatever he's gonna do in the future. My other theory, which I kind of like, is twin hearts. It's similar to what happened to Ven, where Ven got his heart split in two and that his darkness became Vanitas, but in this one, the original heart got split and it became Lushu and Brain. Then probably the Master of Masters intervened for that. But anyway, either way, the Brain looking like Lushu or Lushu looking like Brain thing could bring an extra layer to Ava's friendship with Brain, because we know the foretellers know what Lushu looks like because of Ira's statement to Zigbar that he looks different. So at least Ira has seen what Lushu looks like, and probably the other foretellers have have as well. And if Ava knows what Luciu looks like and he looks like Brain, then she probably met Brain and thought, oh, he looks like Luciu. And that brings another layer to maybe why Ava gave Brain the Book of Prophecies. She could have been making up for the fact that Luciu didn't get a copy of it, but that's just a thought. This could also tie into the two brains theory by The Secret Reports. If you guys haven't seen that video, definitely go check it out. It's pretty cool. Anyway, if it is true and Luciu just looks like Brain, then this would explain the whole two brains theory. It would have been Luciu impersonating Brain, and it would explain why he was so obsessed with the Book of Prophecies in those early cutscenes, because Luciu never got a chance to read it himself because the master didn't want him causing temporal paradoxes. And he also could have been there because he wanted to keep a better eye on the Union leaders. But this one is problematic because how on earth would he keep Brain out of the way and make sure that he didn't say or do anything that made his actions suspicious? Because the apparently fake Brain is the one who met the Union leaders, and the real Brain comes in way later, and if he never actually met them, he'd probably have some questions as to what was going on. I don't know, it's really messy. But if fake Brain is Luciu, then this would kind of do a nice tie-in to those times when fake Brain calls Ven spineless, because Xigbar in the future is always taunting or teasing Ven about things. Anyway, back to just Brain. I think Luciu sends him to the future himself, because he obviously doesn't use one of the pods, so he probably used a different method of time travel, so I'm gonna skip the whole medium and memories checklist. Although Sigurd does bring Brain his hat, which could have been left behind in Daybreak Town, found by Ephemer, and then kept it for him, which could act as a waypoint, but we're skipping the whole waypoint stuff right now. One interesting thing is Sigurd knew Brain would show up in that specific spot on that specific day, which suggests that the Book of Prophecies was involved, because we know Ephemer had it, and I guess he passed it down through the generations. Who has it now, do you think? But anyway, if the Book of Prophecies told that Brain would be arriving on this day, then there must be someone with a no-name Keyblade around during that scene, but we don't see anyone. That'll be something to look out for in the future to figure out who has the no-name in this time that Brain is in right now. One interesting thing is that they are in Scala at Kylum, but it's an area of Scala we've never explored before. We've explored all around the main island and never found anywhere that looks quite like this place, which makes me think that maybe this is one of the other islands that's part of Scala at Kylum. Ericus does mention in the beginning of Dark Road that all the other islands are deserted, but this makes me wonder, maybe he was wrong or something else is going on here. I have a whole theory with this, but I think I'll explain it another time. Anyway, this is Scala at Kylum, so that makes me wonder, does Sigurd have a Keyblade? Is he a Keyblade master? And who does Sigurd work for? This HQ obviously belongs to some kind of group, but what group is this? Do they mean good? Or do they want to take advantage of a lost master being in their time? What is their plan with Brain? And when exactly is Brain? He could be in the past, but I really want him to be in the future, because I really just want him to interact with all the other people. At the very least, he should be in pre-BBS time. That way he would be around the same age as Lorium and Alrena are right now. Lastly, I'd like to quickly talk about the statue of Ephemer that Brain sees. Sigurd mentions that Ephemer is the first Keyblade master and the founder of Scala at Kylum. I've already talked about Ephemer being the founder of Scala at Kylum, but I haven't talked about him being the apparently first Keyblade master, which is obviously not true because there were the foretellers and everyone there. So what is going on here? Is there like some government here in Scala that's keeping the truth a secret from the population? Or is it just a simple case of lost history that Ephemer never wrote down his past, so they all assumed that Ephemer was the first Keyblade master? And the statue shows him holding the Master Defender Keyblade, which we know he got from Brain, but before this in the update, Ephemer is always using his other Keyblade. So so that makes me wonder when he started using Master Defender and why. The statue also shows him as a kid, how we know him, which that makes me wonder why as well for that. Is it because Ephemer died as a kid? Or is this just one statue out of many and this statue's showing him as a kid while other statues could show him as a grown-up? I'm not really sure. And let's talk about the Xehanort flash forward real quick. We might have just seen Xehanort's mom. That's pretty crazy. She doesn't look a whole lot like Xehanort. That's kind of like really contrasty with the skin and hair colors, but the looks can be influenced by a lot of things, as we've seen a lot in Kingdom Hearts, like with the whole situation on what Roxas looks like and why Vanitas looks like Sora and all that stuff. Xehanort's mom also reminds me of Scold. I wonder if that's going to be explained, or if there's a reason she looks like Scold. But with her black hair and silver eyes, that also looks a little bit like Ericus. And that makes me wonder, what if this mysterious woman is also Ericus's mom? That would be cool, because that could mean that Xehanort and Ericus are brothers, which would be the ultimate yes of all things. It would just be really cool. Now there's the question of, why does she give Xehanort to that old man? It could be that maybe for some reason Xehanort is wanted, or there's some kind of secret plot going on, or maybe Xehanort's mom read the Book of Prophecies and knows what Xehanort's gonna become and wants to save him from that fate. And this old man, who is he? He could be a new character, he might be Lucio, who knows? He could be Brain, but I'd much rather Brain be in modern times. I don't think it's Brain. And I don't know why he agreed to take Xehanort. Maybe he's a close family friend of Xehanort's mom, or maybe he's Xehanort's mom's dad. So this could be Xehanort's grandpa right here. I'm also wondering if this old man is invisible, because he falls down and dies right behind Xehanort, and Xehanort doesn't even react. So maybe this guy is invisible somehow. And on the topic of his death, did he specifically die right here? Or was it just a random, oh, he's dead, heart attack, or something like that? If this is Lucio could be switching bodies here. And it also makes me wonder if this is what causes Xehanort to travel to Scarlet Kylam, because immediately after the old man falls over, we see Xehanort waking up in Scala. We know because of Dark Road that it was the hooded figure of Ansem coming to Destiny Islands and like giving Xehanort the opportunity to travel to outside worlds that caused him to go to Scala. But maybe his appearance there was thanks to the old man dying. But who knows? Hopefully, we'll find out later. But for now, guys, that's all I have. I'm so sad to see Union Cross go. I need Reunion. I need to hear these cutscenes voiced and see them animated. I hope that happens sooner rather than later. But for now, that's all I have. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you later.